Have you ever wondered how some women just have businesses where they can have six figures, they can scale to six figures, they can make all the money and still be mums and still have a life outside of their business? Today's guest, Robyn Birkin, does exactly that, and she focuses her whole business on teaching women on how to do this. And so in today's episode, we're talking about how she actually balances her life as a mum and as a business owner, and kind of some of the revenue models and the things that we need to actually have in place to make this work. She shares some of her own story around going from a huge business down to kind of scaling it back to actually what it's actually going to work for her lifestyle, and that the revenue doesn't necessarily have to take a cut because of that. We can be really strategic around the way that we do our business in this season of our life. So we chat everything from revenue models all the way through to what makes a really good sales page and some internal urgency stuff, some design things. And so it's a really, really great episode for finding inspiration for how to do life and business as a mum, how to do life and business even just as a normal human, with some really great strategies and tips around balancing life and creating really strategic sales pages. So if you don't know Robyn, she is the go-to consultant for women who believe it's possible to earn more while doing less. Her superpower is helping women in business to create, launch, and grow strategic, sophisticated, and highly valuable signature programs that allow them to create online businesses that provide both peace and profit. So let's dive in. Welcome, Robyn, to the podcast. Thank you so much for jumping on with me. How are you doing?
I am so well, and I am so excited to speak with you. And do you know what I just realized?
What?
I came on brand for you. I'm dressed in purple, so I'm here. I'm all about white deer today. So how can I support you, and what nuggets of wisdom can I hopefully give?
I'm so excited. You and I know each other from a mastermind that we're in, and I think it's just so nice. It's so nice seeing the back end of life and stuff for your business, although you are very good at sharing that on your podcast as well. I've listened to that occasionally. And so it's actually lines up perfectly with the question I ask all of my guests when they first join, which is, what does an average day in your life and business look like? Like from when you get up to when you go to bed, like what is actually life behind the scenes looking like for Robyn?
Yes. So we are a very early wake up family. So my husband is a tradie. So I've been trained to wake up early. We wake up anywhere between around about 5 a.m. and I'm there helping him get ready and out the door, starting to get myself, in the zone. I will usually, how everyone says oh, don't check your emails or do anything first thing in the morning. No way. I feel so much more regulated knowing, waking up and knowing that there's been no fires overnight. I haven't had any mastermind clients being freaking out. So I proudly check in my Slack group, in my emails first thing in the morning. So he's in the shower. I'm getting us coffee, stuff like that. Then my kids love to wake up really early too. So we're a house by 8 a.m. when we go to school drop off, we've already been
a day.
Yeah, I've already parented for 3 hours. And so school mom, I've got a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are my main work days. So what they look like is very different to my Mondays and my Fridays. So I'm dropping them at school on Mondays and Fridays. Friday is my me day. Monday is my run around, do the errands, grocery shopping. So straight after school drop off, I'll do the grocery shopping. I'll run payroll and admin and the accounts kind of stuff, check in on my VA, but we have our meeting on Tuesday because that's when my head is fully in the game. And so that's kind of my Mondays and my Fridays. So Fridays, I'm going for a walk, catching up for coffee, doing those things. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, from 7 a.m., I'm all stations go. And those are my work days. So typically in the morning, because a lot of my clients are in the US and Canada, if we're running calls, if we're doing a training call, whatever that looks like, usually that's in the AM. And then, from 12 o'clock to 2:30-ish is usually creative time. I don't take on a lot of one-to-one clients at all. So I have a lot of time freedom in what I do. A lot of it is group programs and group support. I run a Slack group for our mastermind. So a lot of my time is spent supporting people asynchronously, which works beautiful. Then school pickup, which is me every single day. And 3 days of the week, we're off to after school sports. And then 7, like by the time we get back, even if it's just getting back from school, pick up, it's just kids, right? Until you go to bed and then rinse and repeat.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you go to bed early to be getting up at 5?
Probably about 9 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah. That works. Yeah. Cool. I loved the permission piece there around checking your emails and stuff early in the morning. All I'm doing when I try to set myself a rule of not checking those things, all I'm doing the whole time is like, I wonder if I've got any emails. Wonder if I've got any emails. Wonder if I've got any emails.
Yeah. And so I
Kudos
went
to
through
people
a
that
phase where
don't, but
I took all my emails off my phone, and I've slowly added some of those back into my phone, not all of my email inboxes, because I've got like 4 or 5 email inboxes. I don't know if any other entrepreneurs have that scenario, but it soothes me, because otherwise by the time I get back from school drop off, or by the time I get off calls, so like this morning, for example, I've been on calls nearly the whole time. That's a long time for me to wait with that running in the back of my mind of, is everyone okay? How's my team going? How are my clients going? So between 5 and 5:30, that's that quiet time in the morning when my brain is switched on. Love checking first thing in the morning.
Yeah, there you go. Noted. Well, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so if any people listening, you've probably got a bit of an idea now that you're mum and a business owner, and you're doing the both thing, and you're running a business on obviously not full-time hours. And so what do you think are the key things that have made it possible for you to be able to run a business this way and for it to be really sustainable and successful?
So I started my business, I kind of fell into it as a life coach specializing in women for infertility, because that was my life story. Having a background of 20 something years in marketing, a friend of mine said, you should start a podcast. And I just went and did it. A million podcasts, later, I had trained as a life coach, built a platform. And when I started my business, very quickly learned that giving people single sessions all the time, spending all of my time when I only had part-time hours in calls, wasn't a sustainable way to run a business. And it felt really stressful and burn-outy, because I had this podcast and I wanted so desperately for it to go out every week. I aimed for it to go out every fortnight or bi-weekly. The reality is that relying on me to do it all amongst coaching calls and this and that, it would go out monthly. And it was this epiphany that I had when I reached a big burnout stage. So in 2018, I had the worst luck month ever in the same month. So I had a daughter who just had bad lungs, like born with born with dud lungs. And she was in and out of hospital the first couple of years with viral wheeze all the time. In September 2018, I had just gone back to part-time work in corporate, mostly because I was just lonely and felt like being an entrepreneur, I was in my house to work, then I was in my house with the kids, and then I never left my house. Since COVID, that's kind of my happy place. So my whole experience of working from home is radically different. And part of that is also because I joined things like masterminds. So I have that water cooler talk and those behind the scenes conversations with people. So that was a big lesson. But September 2018, I'd just gone back to part-time work. Olivia landed in hospital twice with viral wheeze. And Ross had quite a significant rupture of his spleen, which landed him in hospital twice. And each of his times was a 1-week stay. So I had at that time like a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, a part-time job, my business. I also support him in his business with books and all that kind of admin stuff. And then juggling going to hospitals and, a sick kid as well. And I just was like, I can't do this. This is not, and I felt actively repelled by my business. And I think a lot of people, we don't talk about it. Your business can be successful. Things can be working to what you see as an appropriate level, but you can be feeling really allergic and repelled to your business because you feel exhausted. And sometimes it's not the business, it's the way that you're running your business. So I quit in November very dramatically. For anyone out there, I'm a projector, I'm a Capricorn, I'm the eldest child, so everything has to be dramatic. I posted a black square on my Instagram that wrote, "The end." And I sent an email that said, "The end."
Did it just say the end, or did you give any?
No, it just said "the end" in like script font. Like, this is my dramatic, like piano playing, I can't do this anymore. The end, I can no longer support. Anyway, come January, I was still posting on Instagram about infertility and things that were important to me. And I had a colleague reach out to me and be like, "I thought you were quitting." And that forced me to reflect. And like I said before, sometimes burnout isn't the business. Sometimes feeling repelled isn't the business, it's the way we're running it. And I then went on after that. I had freelance marketing clients as well within the business who were, within that realm of health and wellness. I had let go of all of them. I then said, you know what, actually, I'm not doing any one-to-one coaching. I'm not having this offer, that offer, this over here, that offer there. I had one thing, which was one signature online course. Completely changed my life. The other thing that I did is I hired a podcast manager, trembling as I said yes, because now all of a sudden, I've dropped down all of my freelance clients that gave me that safety and security in monthly revenue. I'd cut out my one-to-one coaching, all of my high ticket, and had this really mid-ticket $497 or $247 to $497 online course that I would launch 4 times a year, and that was it. And all I had to give to my business at that season of life was 6 hours per week, because it was what I could do in Fridays while the kids were at school daycare, including supporting Ross with his business. And it fostered a love again of running my business. And that, I think, is the key, is that sometimes we need to really look at the business model, our ascension strategy, and not all business models are suitable for all seasons or situations or personalities or people.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you for sharing that story. It's like this level of what is actually going to work for you now, and letting, if that's different than what the industry is doing, if that's different to what you think you should be doing, if that's not going to make you maybe quite as much money, if you're not getting burnt out and you have that ability to not earn quite as much money, then that's great. And then, but as you say, like, we can still build an incredibly successful, like, 6-figure business if we do that strategically. And so I know that you talk about like your sweet 6, and like you've got a lot of language around this idea of you can work for less hours but still have that successful business. How can you have and be earning as much money as you might be doing, but doing less or doing it differently? Like, how does that actually work?
So there's 3 types of revenues that I like to focus on: scalable revenue, recurring revenue, and sustainable revenue. And I like to focus on one hero signature program as the anchor for everything. And then we build off that as we go. So in terms of time leverage revenue, everybody knows about, like online courses and things like that. There's lots of different types of, I guess, programs. And we get pigeonholed into naming everything as a thing. Like, this is a course, this is group coaching, this is mastermind. But what if it's just a hybrid blend of whatever's going to work best for you and your clients, right? So it's some form of program that is a signature program, and that simplifies everything. Because now all of a sudden, for example, on social media, you can really talk through one core transformation. We take one person from problem unaware to solution aware with one thing that we do repeatedly. So instantly, for me, the way that I support people in creating their businesses and Sweet 6 businesses, and I'll explain what that is in a moment, is by anchoring everything into a scalable group program that has ideally recurring revenue. So when we look at, for example, a membership model, that's a really low cost membership model, there's not really, there is definitely recurring revenue, but there's not necessarily that safety in recurring revenue. And I will die on the hill that sometimes what you think is a low cost membership should actually be a program with a payment plan. And then if, let's say you even charge a 12-month payment plan for that program, you're likely going to be able to charge like 6 times more for that, because there's clear expectations, they convert better, all sorts of different things. So we want recurring revenue, and you'll have that safety and security of knowing that that person, like let's say 90% of people fulfill their payment plan, you have that safety and security of knowing you have those recurring payments for 90% of people who join, versus a membership where someone is going to join on average, they say for 3 months and then bounce. And then we look at sustainable revenue. When we look at really low ticket offer suites, and so I don't mean when we have an offer suite, we never have low ticket products. But if we create low ticket products, they should still be feeding into the signature program.
Yeah.
Versus people who have the belief that, oh, hang on, somebody else has built a $1 million business on just having $67 products. It's not necessarily sustainable revenue, and it's not necessarily sustainable for someone who is building a multi-six-figure business in part-time hours. So a sweet 6 business to me is this sweet spot of business where you're at 200 to 500K. You've got maybe 30 to 50% profit margins, and you are working 20 hours or less per week, very minimal team and very minimal payroll expenses. And if that's primarily with a signature program as the hero, and then ascending people up potentially into continuity offers, and then not necessarily always counting those feeder funnels or feeder products, because they're not designed to necessarily be revenue generators. So having the majority of your revenue coming from these 2 tiers, and a really simple business model, a really simple marketing model. And the other thing I do is I live launch pretty regularly. Great for conversions and momentum. I get to sprint, then I get to rest, and I get to run my business between school holidays.
I saw you mention that somewhere, you must have shared that. And I was like, because I've got part of my business that live launches and part of my business that is evergreen. And people think like, oh, evergreen, I want to evergreen my course. I want to evergreen my course. I'm like, that's not the solution. It's harder to make money from my evergreen course. Like, I was looking at my stats. I'm about to launch. In fact, I'll be in the middle of it, or maybe just finishing it when this podcast goes live, a Black Friday sale for my evergreen course. And I'm just going to do like a mini live launch. And I looked at my stats of last year, and I reckon, maybe at least a third of my sales for that whole year came from that actual live launch that I did for Black Friday last year. And it's like, yes, it takes more effort, but it also gets more effort. I don't even believe that. It takes more effort at that time, but it actually gets a lot more return. And like you say, you can have those periods where you just stop and rest for a bit, or you can fit things in between school holidays and the times when you want to be away. And so like, I think that's a good encouragement to people that evergreening can work for you, but that doesn't have to be the solution. And it's taken me 5 years to get my course where it's finally selling by itself a little bit, And so, yeah, such a good point.
Yeah. So I'm not anti-evergreen at all. For some people, evergreen will work much better, but neither is an easy option. And I feel like evergreen is the flex option. Evergreen is like when you have mastered all of the rest, and you're like, if we were playing a video game and you're ready to go to level 6, I'm like, that's evergreen. Go to evergreen when that's what you want. It's not an easier option. And I think we have the perception that evergreen means you don't ever have to sell, except that you have to constantly spruik people coming into the evergreen funnel. And then social media, where I'm like, in my business, I'm like, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, you know what I mean? Like, we're in growth, we're in problem awareness, this. Whereas when you go into evergreen, we're kind of jumbling it all up because everyone's at different stages of that funnel. So evergreen is the flex.
just wanted to interrupt for a moment to say that if you're enjoying this episode, I would love to invite you to my free 3-part video training to help you to create your own stunning visual brand, helping you to grow your business faster and to feel and look $1 million. If you're ready for the best year of business yet, then join over 1,000 business owners who have already taken part in the challenge to get started on creating your own brand. Join us today at whitedeer.com.au/challenge. That's the color white, the animal deer.com.au/challenge. Cannot wait to see you there. Let's get back to the episode.
Unless you have, the only time I think it works flawlessly is if you're not really using social media and you're just using Facebook ads, but those Facebook ads are performing wildly well and you've like nailed your funnel. As you say, it's like the flex mode. It's like you've got to have everything perfect before you can anyway. So yeah, interesting thoughts. Okay, while we're talking about like courses and selling things, I wanted to just pick your brain. I know a couple months ago I got your help with my own sales page. I was like, you had like a random little offer and I was like, you know what, I'm going to jump on that. I know what Robyn's brain works like and I can see that it's going to be useful. And you went through my sales page and it was really, really helpful to see some things that I could fix and some messaging I could work on. So I'd love to ask you, what are some of the biggest things you think lead to a successful sales page? What are some top tips for people when they're promoting a program on a sales page?
100%. So one of the things that I'm really big on at the moment is internal urgency in sales pages. So we focus all the time on, countdown timers, doors open, this, that, and I need deadline funnel because this is going to happen. But what we don't talk about enough is what is actually higher converting, which is internal urgency in our sales pages, and really illustrating to people the benefit of taking action now and the cost of waiting. And I think sometimes, particularly in terms of conversions and things like that, a lot of people miss this. So when I'm doing sales page audits and things like that, probably one of the number one that I work on in my sales pages all the time, but also the thing that I work with other people on all the time is that internal urgency. So if someone waits 6 months, what is that potentially costing them? Let's say that you have a dog and you've got a puppy and, are we going to train the puppy now? Are we going to train the puppy in 6 months? Well, what is your house going to look like in 6 months? Is a dog that's older harder to train? And using language like every month that your dog is not learning how to walk properly on a leash is another month that you feel anxiety every time you go to the park. They're not being socialized with other dogs, and training then becomes so much harder when they're older. And really illustrating that, and then being able to really tangibly illustrate the value of the programs that we have. Where are we looking at both the immediate and the long-term benefits of joining our program, and what that would look like in a real-term sense? Particularly with AI, we're very surface level with what it is that we talk about on sales pages. People will talk about you feel overwhelmed or you feel tired. And I'm like, but what does feeling tired look like? So one of the things I learned as a life coach is this is the way that we navigate life. We have a thought, then we have a feeling, then we have a behavior, and then we have our experience of something. And we get really stuck in things like sales pages with the feeling, and it's also usually the very generic feeling. You feel tired. What does feeling tired look like? You blast your body with a black coffee on an empty stomach when you first wake up in the morning. And then by 11 a.m., you're visibly shaking as you type on the computer because you are so wired, only to crash at 2 p.m. and feel like you just want to go to sleep under your desk.
You're so good at this.
Thanks. But the more that we can say, well, what is the actual behavior, or what is the actual experience? So if we were a weight loss coach and we talk about, you don't know what to eat in the day, or you're struggling with meal ideas. No, you open and close the fridge 347 times desperately trying to will yourself to eat the healthy option, looking inside the fridge and then being like, I don't want any of that. And then closing the fridge before, on the 348th attempt, just opening the fridge and having the ham and cheese croissant that you had really wanted deep down to have anyway. Like, get granular with experiences. And when you do that, you start to resonate with people so much more, because all of a sudden they're like, oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that is such a good point. This was exactly the kind of thing that you helped me with in my sales page. I was like, oh yeah, I should word it that way, or I should think about it that way. And I was like, I mean, I should buy this program. Like it made me, it was like, this is actually really, really valuable. And I think like I have timers on my pages, but I think having that other sense of urgency of like, let's not wait. Like I just got a message from someone now saying, oh, I'll do in the next round. And I'm like, but you're losing this now. Like, let's think about, like, it's so interesting to think through, like, what kind of urgency can we provide for people? That's like, if we don't actually action this now, what are the results of not taking action? And helping people to see that, so that they can see that, are they okay with that, with those results, or do they want to take action and purchase your program? Like, it's not about forcing them to do something, but showing them this is probably what's going to be your reality. If you're okay with that, don't purchase. But if you are, I'm here, got a solution, really ready to help you. That's really, really great. Can I ask you as well for some design tidbits as well, for in terms of sales pages, like button things or placement things, or just a couple of things that you see people making mistakes on that we can fix as well?
Absolutely. So I get sometimes a little bit nervous as I tell graphic designers and people who have a design brain where I sort of sit with design. So I think sometimes when you have like two brains coming together, that's where you can create real magic with high converting sales pages. So here are some of the things from a design perspective that I look from with, I guess, my conversion-y brain. The first thing is top menus and bottom footers. We are all like squirrels in our brains. And when you are looking, particularly in the economy today, people want to make really discerning and considered decisions about the investments that they make. So you best believe that a lot of the people who are going to invest with you, especially if they're investing in things that are a significant financial investment, they're going to be wanting to find out more information about you. So if you have the top menu at the top and you click to get them to your sales page, and then all of a sudden at the top, they're like blog, podcast, freebies, they'll get to your sales page and be like, oh, freebies. What freebies have you got? Oh, now then that freebie, the thank you page leads to this $27 tripwire. Now all of a sudden I've got so far back, I can't even, then my kid calls me and I've forgotten that to just buy the thing. So where we have footers at the bottom, I'm like, terms and conditions, privacy policy, disclaimer, no more like rabbity stuff, especially not a lead magnet, like call to action box, because that's how they start going down the rabbit hole and just getting distracted and going off your sales page. So if someone's on a lead magnet registration page, a webinar registration page, or a sales page, we want to be like IKEA. We're not like Walmart, where it's like choose your own adventure. We're like IKEA. Like, you'll go on the path that I'm going to take. I'm taking you on a journey, and that journey is to get to the end of my sales page and buy my thing. So then in terms of the design of the sales page, one of the things I always do, I gave this exact advice on a mastermind call this morning as well, is I will always say, let's tone down the colors on the page and stick with maybe, you know, neutrals and black and white, and enough white space so that we're not tiring people with their eyes. And then you're obviously going to have some bold brand colors that really represent your brand. But in terms of a buy now or a join now button, I like to have that as a unique color that exists nowhere else on the page, that is bold and stands out. So if you're looking at a sales page and you're looking at your color palette, I'll usually, or even if you're looking at your color palette generally, I'll always kind of pick one color out of my color palette to be like, well, that's going to be always my call to action button. So I'm pretty much always going to use that for the calls to action. And then when we look at the sales page as well, most of us have probably 75 to 85% of people who view our things viewing on mobile. Yet we're always creating our pages on the desktop, that's great, but you need to check via the preview and then check when the page is published how that is appearing to people via mobile. And ideally what you want is for the most relevant information to be displayed what's called above the fold, which means someone can view it without scrolling. So when we come to sales pages, is it really clear and logical? Like, here's my course promise and sign up. And then we lead into the headline, subheadline. And the headline, subheadline, like that paragraph after the hero content, I always see it as like, this is what we're here to do to kind of indoctrinate people into this is the vibe and the flavor, but also the primary goal is just, I want you to be invested in reading more. So looking at how that all lays out on mobile, and do we have like the core course promise, sign up, and then the ability for someone to read right at the top of the page, so that people can do that.
Those are such great points. And I think, like, as a designer, I find it like, people think design is just about being pretty, but good design is about strategy and using it strategically. And so doing some of these things, I think, is so wildly important. So thank you for sharing that. All right. My son's just arrived, so I'm going to finish this up. Do you have anything else you'd like to say, or should I bring us into the
No, I'm good.
how can I work with you? Cool. All right. I'll be about 2 minutes, Liv. You can still hear him, can't you?
I can't hear it all.
Great. Benefit of this microphone. So thank you for sharing all that with us. I think, like, just thinking about these things well-roundedly as like, right, what kind of business can I have that supports this season of my lifestyle? What kind of things should I create? What kind of revenue do I need to create? And then how can I strategically market that through things like sales pages and whatnot? And it's such incredible content. So thank you for sharing that with us. If we are interested in learning how to build the kind of thing that you've built of like a 6-figure business on 16 hours a week, like, how can we work with you? How can we learn more about you?
So there's 2 places that I hang out a lot. One is my podcast, which is called Signature Online Course Secrets. And then I'm really active on Instagram at Robyn Birkin. And then the way that people can primarily work with me is in my mastermind. So I have a 6-month mastermind where I work with women who want to create sweet six businesses and want to really lean into the strategy side of things rather than just coaching. I like to refer to myself more as a consultant. And then a couple of times a year, so it definitely is worth being on my email list, we have flash sales like Black Friday, where there's other opportunities to do things like sales page audits. And those are pretty much the ways to work with me. I have a very simple, like, let's keep it simple business. I practice what I preach. And that's me.
Amazing. Thank you for that. We'll have all the links below if you're watching or listening, but thank you so much for your time, Robyn. I so appreciate you and your brain, and I'm very grateful for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me, and I will speak to you, no doubt, so soon.
Very much so.
So thank you for listening to that episode. I hope you found it as useful and inspiring as I did. Make sure you hit Robyn up at her different links. And if you're interested in working with me as well, please make sure you hit up the links in the show notes or in the description as well, because there's so many ways that I can serve you to help you create the design and branding that's going to go with this incredible business. So until next time, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.